Weeylite has joined the roster of companies offering a small, wallet-sized LED light with their new S05 Pocket Fill Light. And today we're going to look at what it can do and just how practical these small LEDs are for professional work. I'm going to take a look at this in detail, but first, just a little spoiler. I was shocked at how low the price is on these. Full disclosure, Weeylite did send me both of these units for review. However, this is not a paid review. All opinions here are my own and they are not seeing this video before it is published. This is the Weeylite S05, a rechargeable RGB light with built-in effects and smartphone app control that fits in your pocket and weighs only about 101 grams. If you're not familiar with Weeylite, they're not a new company. They're actually a new branch of a more well-established company known as Viltrox. You might have heard of them in terms of making camera accessories, but they're most well known for making affordable lens adapters. That being said, they are quite new to the lighting game and they've only made a couple products thus far, including the K21 that I've reviewed recently, but actually really liked. In addition to the S05 unit itself, the box also includes a USB-A to USB-C charging cable and a cold shoe mount. The light offers 5 different lighting modes on the unit itself. A CCT mode for daylight and tungsten looks, an HSI mode for full RGB control, an RGBYW mode if you prefer a color mixing approach, a gel mode that recreates popular gel colors from companies like Lee and Roscoe, and finally an effects mode with 26 different effects to choose from. Now there's plenty of other small lights on the market that offer CCT, RGB, and built-in effects, but the RGBYW mode and the gel modes are really nice bonuses that we don't see too often. Now, when I hear new lighting company and budget friendly, one of my main concerns is this light going to be remotely color accurate? But luckily it is quite good. We have a CRI rating of 95+, and we have a TLCI rating of 97+. That's incredibly good and means it's going to stand up and have accurate colors very comparable to bigger brands like Aputure. At this point, I should mention that I was genuinely blown away at the price because this comes in at only $29 US. When I think about Bluetooth functionality, all the different color modes, effects, gel modes, that's really shocking compared to what else is offered on the market right now from brands like Aputure and Falcon Eyes. Now, if you're not sold on that value yet, fair enough, we've got some downsides to this thing that we're definitely going to be covering. But on the other hand, there's a ton of extended functionality in the Bluetooth app as well. So we're going to cover that in just a second. The CCT mode gives you a range of 2800 to 6800 Kelvin, but more importantly, it has a green magenta shift control. So if you're using multiple lights that are all set to the same color temperature, they might not exactly be identical in color and tint just because they're of different qualities and coming from different manufacturers. This can make it really hard to remove tint from your shots in post because when you remove tint from one light, it might be too much tint from another light or not enough because they don't all have the same amount of color cast. But this way, if you have another light that has maybe a bit of a green tint to it, you can use the green magenta hue shift to match the amount of green that's in that light. And then when you go to edit everything and color correct, everything has the same amount of tint, so it's easy to remove from the entire shot. The HSI mode is exactly what you expect. You have full control over the hue, saturation, and intensity of your colors. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I noticed that on both the S05 and the Weeylite K21 that I recently reviewed, the colors seem to be much more vibrant, particularly when using primaries like red or blue. That's just compared to some of the other RGB lights that I own. Might be an anomaly, but either way, props to them for that. The RGBYW mode offers the same full RGB control, but instead it uses a color mixing approach where you control the intensity of each set of LEDs within the light. This doesn't give you any new colors or functionality compared to the HSI mode. It just gives you a different workflow for achieving those colors if you prefer to work that way. The gel mode has a pretty significant selection of gels with 16 from Lee's product lineup and 24 from Roscoe's offerings. There's also a handy setting in the gel mode that's just plain neutral daylight. So if you have gels on hand and want to compare them to various presets within the light, you can quickly swap to daylight and then hold your physical gels up to get a quick reference point when color matching. Last but not least, we have the effects mode, and this comes with 26 built-in effects covering a variety of real-life light sources such as emergency vehicles, fireplaces, fireworks, as well as more creative ones like color pulsing and a hue cycle mode. What I love from the S05 as well as the K21 from Weeylite is that you can actually control the speed of the different effects on 3 different speed settings. This gives you way more variety and versatility, and in many cases, it can take an unrealistic or mediocre effect and make it far more usable. Now, the majority of these effects are already quite usable out of the box, but some of them need some work. Something I criticized about the K21 in my last video, and still applies here, is the candlelight setting, which is very like yellow-green for a fire-based light source and does not look great. I also noticed that the RGB hue cycle effect is very choppy, and it doesn't provide a smooth transition even on the lowest setting. The K21 was far better for this, but still not quite perfect. For the most part though, most of these effects are fairly convincing, and more importantly, they're very practical. Lastly, the user interface on these is very straightforward and very intuitive. You cycle through the various modes by holding the M button, you change the setting you want to adjust by short pressing the M button, and then make changes using the up and down arrows. Now that covers everything that you can actually do on the unit itself, but you can do even more if you connect the smartphone app. Once you download and open the Weeylite Pro app, it'll automatically connect with your S05 unit. While that's very convenient, it's not the best idea. I think you should at least have some sort of code that you enter or something to actually register the light with your particular smartphone app. Otherwise, anyone can just download the app and start messing with your lights when you don't want them to. Listen, I'm all for more convenience, but when it comes to professionalism, I would much rather have the ability to make sure that that light is fully controlled by me and me only. You can see from the menu that we have the same 5 modes that we already talked about, but we have the addition of 3 more. An XY coordinate mode, which is essentially just another workflow for RGB, a color picker, and custom scenes. The color picker allows you to point your phone camera at any object and the light will match that color for you. This can be super helpful if you're trying to match the color to something on your set like a prop, or if you want to match the branding of something for a product shoot. If you'd like, you can even use it to match other colored light sources on set. It works pretty well, but I am annoyed at how it picks colors because it will constantly update the color no matter what. So what you need to do is point it at the object, get the color that you want, and then immediately back out of that part of the app in order to make sure it doesn't keep changing the color. It's a little bit finicky, and I can give them a pass on it because it still works as intended, but like, it's a little stupid not to just give us a button that says stop updating the color, stay this color. As for the My Scenes mode, it's literally whatever presets you want to be stored in there. So you can access any of these color modes, change the settings however you want, and then you go in the top right and press the little plus icon to save that as a preset. These presets save all of that information, not just the basics like what effect you were on or what color. It'll also retain the brightness value that it was set to and the speed. This is actually awesome because it gives you access to more custom functionality, because now you can create different lighting effects or gags by alternating between different presets. For example, here you can see that I'm creating a unique flickering light source effect by alternating between a dimmer, steady flicker preset and a brighter, slower explosion preset. This is a look that would not be possible on the actual light itself, but this additional functionality just opens up whole new worlds. To give a couple practical examples, you could use this to time a lighting cue perfectly with a line of dialogue or where a character is in a scene. Or if you're like me and shoot music videos, you can use this to time lighting cues to your music very easily. No DMX, no MIDI, no programming. You can do custom lighting effects in time with your music without having to do any prep. That's awesome. Now, if you have multiple S05 units, or even some of the K21s I showed earlier, or even a mix of them, you can control all of them with just that one single app. Once again, this is a $29 light. Like, let's just be real here for a second. This is clearly supposed to be a competitor to the Aputure MC, and that thing comes in at 3 times the price. You can't tell me this isn't a really good value. The last thing I want to discuss is build quality, and this for me kind of comes somewhere within the middle of the spectrum. This is an all plastic build, and while that's not ideal, I do have to admit it is very sturdy plastic, and the fit of all the parts is extremely snug. So it does feel like it's good quality, and no matter how you bend or twist it, there's just no give. It's very, very sturdy. I honestly don't have any concerns that it's gonna fall apart or that the parts are gonna get loose over time, but it is still plastic, so you're gonna have to baby it a little bit more than something that's made of metal. The diffusion on this is fine. I mean, I never want to see the individual LEDs through a layer of diffusion, but to their credit, With lights like this, these aren't the kind of practicals that you're gonna see in your scene unless you're hiding them in a sneaky way, like maybe putting them within a lampshade. This is never gonna be something that you want facing camera in the first place. That's not really the kind of light that this is supposed to be. So I guess I'm happy to take the trade-off of worse diffusion to have higher output as a result. The OLED screen on the back is very clear, and I didn't have any problems reading it even in direct sunlight. USB charging is great as well because it means that you can power the light past its normal 80-minute runtime on full brightness by using something like a power bank. If I'm being super nitpicky, I love the 1/4" thread on the bottom, but I would have loved having a second one on the side just to make vertical mounting a little bit easier. But again, I'm nitpicking. However, the mounting options do bring me to something that is not a nitpick and I think is really dumb. There's no magnet in this thing whatsoever. A lot of these smaller form factor lights have magnets for easy mounting, and I think it's a little bit ridiculous that this thing doesn't have that. It may seem like a small thing, but I just think that if you're marketing a product based on its small size, portability, and convenience, then maybe don't take away a standard feature in other competitors' lights that allow all of those things to be achieved. Now you can just go out, buy some magnets and adhesive, slap it on the back and you're good to go, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing. But it's just not something that we should have to do. That's going to add to the bulk of the product. Adhesive can get loose over time, especially in hot environments, and ultimately I'd just rather pay an extra $5 just to have a built-in magnet. You may have noticed by now that these come in multiple colors as well, and while I generally prefer black for any product in my life, I do like this. It's a nice little bit of personality that other manufacturers don't do. So let's get down to it. What do I really think about this light? Most of the specs here are just kind of par for the course for pocket lights these days, but all the stuff that you get, like the added functionality from the smartphone app and the gel mode, those are just such great additions that, in my opinion, make this a standout. With pocket lights, I'm not looking for something that's just really good at one thing. I need it to do it all, because the reason I'm carrying around a small light is because I don't know what I'm gonna need it for. I don't know if I'm gonna need to do some fake police lights for a shot. I don't know if one corner is just a little bit dark and so I need a little accent. I need something that can do it all, and this sure as hell can do it all. The only things I can really complain about here are the lack of any sort of pairing process for the smartphone app, just to keep that secure, and the lack of a built-in magnet, which I think was a really big oversight. However, I can admit that those are very minor things and very easy to look past. As long as the tech specs are good and the functionality is good, it's really hard to complain at $29. Honestly, kudos to Weeylite. I really didn't think I would like the K21, and I really didn't think I was gonna like these either. Like, I genuinely thought all the stuff they were sending me was gonna be hot garbage, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So kudos guys, great job. And if you're in the market for something like this, I'm gonna leave a link in the description for you to check it out. If you have questions, leave a comment, I'll be happy to help. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.